Welcome to the Walt Weekly Podcast. I'm here with our co-host, Ernest J. Robinson, and we have a special guest today, and I believe he could help a lot of young folks out there. A lot of our followers, this man can help. His name is Edmond W. Davis. He's a world-class speaker, American historian, author, and a professor known for his expertise in history, violence prevention, career development, and with experience teaching at institutions like the University of Phoenix and Pulaski Technical College. Davis had also served as a director of the Derrick Oliver Research Institute in Arkansas. Now, I don't want to tell y'all too much about this guy, but I think that he's going to bring a tremendous amount of value to our listeners based on what his bio says and based on my speaking to him. So I know he's very tight. And he's very tight with the HBCU community. You have anything to add to that?
No, I'm actually looking forward to the conversation. No, nothing
okay.
else.
With that said, people, let me welcome a guy that, in looking at his credentials, he blew my mind. And you really did. So let me introduce Edmond Davis. Mr. Edmond W. Davis.
Thank you.
All right. How are you today?
Mr. Walt, I'm honored to be here on your show, sir. And again, I want to say thank you to big brother Ernest, Mr. Robinson. Thank you for your service to this country. And, you guys are my new role models. So, hey, I think I'm in good company. And, we don't get these moments back. So I'm just grateful to where I am right now. And I will take that as face value and find ways to be a blessing to somebody with our conversation, and also, give honor and glory to God in that whole process. But yes, my name is Edmond W. Davis. I am originally from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, West Philadelphia, born and raised. On the playground is where I did not spend most of my days. My dad had kept me a job in my hand, so I was always working, but most of the kids were on the playground, and I really appreciate that. He instilled in me the work set skills, and my mom did too. So many blessings and shout outs to, first and foremost, to my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, then to my wife, Mrs. Davis, and then to my mom, my biological mother, Charlotte, who's listening probably, or will be listening in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. So we want to make sure we have some listeners up in Philadelphia with the Walt Weekly Podcast. And so I'm in Little Rock, Arkansas. And
All
so
right.
I've been down here for 23 plus years now. And so definitely... this has been a new walk for me in this whole time down here as a professor of history. And that's been the page that's turned so far and still working things out. Yes.
That white town in Arkansas, I was reading about it. Got a whites only town in Arkansas. Yes. You heard about that?
Yes, there is. This is a fact. This is true. There is the history of sundown towns. We all know what a sundown town is. A sundown town is where people like me, you people like Brother Ernest, we it's probably not smart for us to drive through after the sun goes down. And so our grandparents in the 40s, in the 30s, in the 1920s, when they had to go to different stores, those who had vehicles, it wasn't smart for them. Those are towns that African Americans and anybody that's not Caucasian would avoid because of the hatred, because of the visceral attacks that possibly even losing their lives. And so these places are called sundown towns. Arkansas is known to have a couple of those. I hadn't really had any bad experiences from that standpoint. But to your question, I was not directly moved from Philly to Little Rock. I had a stop at Grambling State University. A shout out to Grambling State University. I received my first degree at the mighty Tiger campus. Also, after that, I graduated and went to Louisiana Tech University, also in Louisiana, and received a master's degree from there. Yes, Louisiana Tech University, Carl Malone School, Terry Bradshaw. And so I received another degree from that school, and then I got the phone call as I was recruited to be a college professor or an adjunct instructor at that time at the University of Arkansas, Little Rock, which I had no idea was a school until I got there. And I've been up in Arkansas ever since. I've taught at an HBCU, Arkansas Baptist College. I've taught at PWIs, predominantly white institutions. Grand Canyon University, I've taught there. I've taught at the University of Phoenix. I've taught at charter schools, Covenant Keepers Charter School. I've also taught at other colleges as well. And so history has been pretty much my creme de la creme, if that makes any sense at all. It's been social science courses. It doesn't matter, but my primary focus has been finding ways to minimize talking about colonization and trying to put more of the attention and the focus on knowing who we are and how we built this country and the roles that we played after slavery. A lot of times, a lot of people, when they think about Black history early in this country, they focus on just slavery. No, in fact, we were here before colonizers arrived. Folks don't want to talk about that. You had Afro natives who were here generations before colonizers from Europe ever came to the Western Hemisphere. And so where I teach American government, political science, private reading. I've taught African American cinema, film, and hip hop class. I love that course. I taught that many years ago. But primarily, it's been U.S. History 1, U.S. History 2, Western Civilization 1, Western Civilization 2. But I don't teach it from a Western Civ standpoint. I teach it from an Afrocentric standpoint. And so that's been given me. I've been given a green light many years ago to go ahead and use my academic freedom to insert that into these courses. Mm-hmm.
Active instructor or
Yes,
professor,
sir.
right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. All right. Now, before we get into the exciting stuff, let me turn it over to Ernest. Ernest.
So, one listening to your background more after reading it, how do you approach, I guess, advocacy in your teachings of history and their intent on trying to erase and or whitewash history?
Great question, Brother Ernest. Thank you for that question. And because I teach at a HBCU, for those who are listening, we're on the Walt Weekly Podcast. My name is Edmond W. Davis. And for those who don't know, an HBCU is a historically Black college and university. And so I teach at one that's rather small, Brother Ernest. And so by that capacity, I have a lot of freedom to pretty much teach, not what I want to teach per se, but teach what I need to teach. And that's who we are to help these younger brothers, because I teach at Arkansas Baptist College. This is the only college in America, and I'm going to say it real slow for those who are listening. This is the only college, 2-year, 4-year, big or small, Pac-10, Big 5, the SEC conference, it doesn't matter, that has, at a co-ed school, the majority of our students are African-American males. Most colleges
Really?
are women.
Oh, that's
Women
good.
run it, especially Black women are the most educated people in the world are African American women. They get their degrees, they hold it down, they start their businesses, they're superhuman. But and again, shout out to my rib, Mrs. Monica Davis. Love you, baby. But here it is. The idea that we're talking about in terms of Ernest's question is, how do we find time and space without being reprimanded? A lot of times schools say they're scared. They don't talk about, they don't use the advantage of being fair and balanced, as some would say, in terms of talking about who we are. And so here at Arkansas Baptist College, I've got the green light to do that. So again, we don't receive a lot of federal funds because we're a private school and we're real small. Plus HBCUs have always been MIA. And when we hear MIA, not in the military sense for Brother Ernest, but MIA for me is marginalized, ignored, and avoided. That's pretty much the new MIA when it comes to us, whether it's teaching history, telling the truth. And I tell people I'm not controversial. If I am controversial, I'm like Jesus. I'm going to tell the truth. He was controversial because he didn't lie. I want to be controversial in that aspect. But again, back to Mr. Ernst's question, I don't find it hard or difficult at all. But what I do is I do it with love, and the blow is less abrasive when you talk. And it's all about being honest and transparent, but also in a loving kind of a way when I deliver it. And so, of course, whether I'm teaching at Arkansas Baptist College or speaking, yes, those new DEI or lack thereof policies have been quite a hindrance from a speaking standpoint. So I've changed it up from talking about Black history to talking about emotional intelligence. And so that's another avenue where I can get my foot into the door when I talk to young people, regardless of their academic position or their ancestry, their heritage, or the color of their skin, their tax bracket, or their gender. I always use something where I can kind of, push that fold, do it in a proficient way because I'm skilled at doing that. However, the major point is to talk about the truth in those capacities. And so it's been effective thus far. But again, that is something that's worth observing, Brother Ernest, when it comes to the presidency and number 47 and all these tactics. We call these terror tactics, if you will. But again, we're always going to talk about our history and empower ourselves with what we have to do.
I have a follow on. So when I'm an HBCU graduate myself, I went to Virginia Union University. We have
There you go.
a multitude of great leaders that have come out of there. Has there been in any conversation of the HBCUs strengthening their coalition to push back more or to expand more on the teachings of history, diversity, equity, inclusion, or anything that's going to, I guess, increase funding, increase job opportunities for our graduating students from our various HBCUs throughout the country?
Now, those talks, I know down here in the deep South, well, in the South rather, I think just south of me in Louisiana is the deep South, but here in the South, I haven't heard too much in my social circles about that. Talking to my contemporaries at the University of Arkansas, University of Arkansas Pine Bluff, UAPB, or Shorter College, or of course my folks here at Arkansas Baptist College, or Fernandez Smith University. Now we will have that conversation in 63 days, 64 days at the 5th Annual National HBCU Black Wall Street Career Fest. We will talk about that and take that bull by its horns and rub it into the ground and have that dialogue. We will do it there. But in terms of just talking about it here, getting over that snowstorm we had a couple weeks ago, I for the first time yesterday, I actually saw my porch ground. We had so much snow back there for weeks. I finally saw all of my porch ground back there in my backyard. So we're kind of getting back to normalcy. Plus, of course, we had the nation's largest African American history parade this past weekend as well. And so there's been a lot of other things, but that topic there, sir, we will address it at the Career Fest.
Okay. All right. Now, I wanted to ask you, now you're a professional public speaker. All right. And I know Ernest is also.
Okay. I haven't had a chance to talk from that primary standpoint of being a professional speaker. Now, to my students here at HBCU Arkansas Baptist College, I have. We mentioned that this morning. We mentioned it last night. Every chance to have our opportunity to talk about that, I try to tie it in, and not from a traumatic standpoint, financially, or traumatic standpoint, emotionally, or traumatic standpoint, psychologically, or anything like that, but just common sense dialogue about, the pros and cons to that. I try to do that, of course, at my house with my son and with my wife, and online, as a journalist, I try to use that and push that needle forward because the power of the pen is amazing. When I protest with my money and I protest with my pen, writing certain things and having truths and calling them to in that aspect. But I've done that, Mr. Walt, via my penmanship in certain articles that I've written that have circulated all across the country and around the world. Yes, sir, I have addressed the DEI from that capacity, more so than any other form, not just verbally, but with my pen. I've got more influence with the articles that I write that go all over the country and outside of the country. I've done that many, many times over the last year or so.
No, I want to hear what other questions you had lined up from, because I honestly, I mean, as a speaker and an advocate myself, I think there's a lot of things that we could talk about for hours and get a lot deeper, and maybe this may be a good kind of a teaser, more or less, to see about having much deeper conversations as it pertains to conversations as well as actions that are happening in different parts of our country as it pertains to our students, our graduates, the life the bloodline of our HBCUs is also a great conversation, because these actions from the administration could have long-term effects in a negative way on the standings of our HBCUs, as well as our opportunities that are afforded to our Black young boys and girls who are looking forward to continuing their education. So, no, I don't have anything else further. You can go ahead and ask your next question.
All right, so you're a world-class speaker, right? American historian, author, associate professor, known for his expertise, blah, blah, blah. Now, you have an expertise in history, which we've spoken about earlier. Violence prevention, how does that come into play?
Now, as a researcher, for 2 years of my life, intensely speaking, I was director of the Derek Olivier Research Institute for the Prevention of Gun Violence. In that 36-month window, I was able to analyze data from Pew Research. I was able to look at research from the state police records. I was able to look at research from the FBI, from local police districts all over the country. I was able to look at some high school information as well that was decommissioned, if that makes any sense, from a long time ago. And from 1950 up until 2022, we've had nearly 600,000 African American males killed in this country since 1950. We're talking 75 years, 76 years now, from other African American males.
This was recorded. You never know the exact number, but go ahead.
Right. So that's a rough guesstimate, but we got it quantified to about 6,400 murders a year. Think about that, gentlemen. 6,400 murders on average a year, just with black males, not men, because somebody's dying, somebody's getting killed are little boys. So we say black males, other black males, not your girlfriend that shot and killed you because you was hitting on her, so she got her revenge, or you falling off a cliff, or the cops beating you down. That's only about 50 deaths per year. When law enforcement does something to us, we want to throw a fit and boycott Walmart when they do it one time, but when we do it 18 times a day, it just goes to a GoFundMe account and it goes on the news, and that's it. We're desensitized to when we kill each other. That's a problem. And so I was able to collect this data for 2 years, and it does something to the psyche, looking at these numbers and looking at the FBI reports, looking at the homicide records. The homicide records in this country was the highest it's ever been in 2022. More people died violently in America than ever before, on record. Most of those murders, out of the 17,000 homicides, okay, most of them, 50% of them, were African-American males. Now check this out. We're only 6% of the population in this country, black males.
Wait a minute. Oh, black males. Okay.
Black males. Yeah, black males, 6%. There's more women. We kill ourselves. We don't view each other as kings. We don't view each other as princes. We don't view each other as and that's not us on this phone, on this call. But from that standpoint, if we knew who we were, where we came from, and what we've done to build this great nation, and why it's number one in the whole world, it's because of our free labor of 246 years. That's the reason why.
Deferred wages.
Right.
That's one of the things I preach about when I talk about reparations. I'm very high reparations.
Mm-hmm.
All right. They worked there 240 years. They didn't pay a dime.
Right. And so to your question about, violence prevention and what we call, and I use this term carefully, we have to figure out and look at the term black fratricide. When you think about black, that's us in this country color-wise. Frat is a brotherhood, fraternity. So fratricide, that's black brothers killing black brothers. And it's like, wow, look at those numbers. It's demonic. It's embarrassing. And so how can we find ways to address that and not just point the finger, but let me look in the mirror and see how can I play a role in this to help minimize, help decrease, to help stop this black fratricide. Because again, 18 brothers are going to die today based on the numbers and killed by other brothers. You don't hear what you hear about the lady being kidnapped, the Guthrie mother, and hopefully
you heard all of that.
Okay. Let a white girl come up missing. They're gonna shut the mall down. There's gonna be a curfew out. But brothers kill each other every day. In this case, Sarah, we become normalized. It's become desensitized. And so when we hear that, it's sad because when I was born 50 years ago, and even before that, you guys can remember, that was rare. It didn't start escalating until the 60s. And of course, that happened with the whole trajectory of unemployment, the whole trajectory of taking those after school programs out. That whole increase with black homicides happened when you had the installation of crack cocaine in our neighborhoods, but also it happened when you have positioned us to have to go to college. Black Wall Street wasn't built by people that had all college degrees. It was built by people who had they had the frame of mind to actually be entrepreneurs, and they work for themselves. Yes, the college folks helped out, myself and people like me, but it was really the blue collar workers who built these kingdoms. And of course, folks became so jealous of that. When you look at the history, there was like 90 something other Black Wall Streets outside of Tulsa. But people just want us to focus on just Tulsa. Tulsa was a tragedy. Yes, it was. But you had about 85 other Black Wall Streets that all had the same detrimental decline. If it wasn't redlining or the building of a highway through a black neighborhood legally, I call it legal lynching. Okay. They call it the new Negro Removal Plan. That's what I call it. But they call it urban renewal. No, that's the Negro Removal Plan. Okay. So that's what they've done over the years to incentivize you, give you 10% of what your house is worth. And they're going to run a highway or build a strip mall through there that they didn't have to do that. But again, that's the way that you impede black wealth and black growth. And so they've done that successfully. And so, again, to your question about how do we de-escalate violence, well, you have to first educate your sons on who they are. And we've done a bad job of doing that. I have to look in the mirror and ask myself, I asked my son a question about 10 years ago about who in black history of the 21st century, hear my question, gentlemen, of the 21st century, who in black history can you point to that's a role model for you outside of sports? And I ain't talking about Tyler Perry and LeBron James. Besides those two, that was my question. Guess what he said? This is my son. He's a grown man. He said, Martin Luther King. Martin Luther King been dead 50-some years. Rosa Parks been dead 20-some years. We're still being carried off the backs of civil rights people who died 50, 60, 70, 100 years ago, and they're a foundation for the 20th century. But my question was 21st century. Who can you point to besides Obama, besides Kobe, besides Tyler Perry, besides those three people, black men? Who can we point to that's not in entertainment, that's not in sports? No sports and no entertainment. Because again, most of our black males, they try to be like superstar athletes, and that's fine. You got those skills like LeBron James, so be it, do it. But most of us are not like LeBron James. LeBron James has played 23 years, scoring 25 points a game every year for 25 years. Nobody's done that before. He's different. He's built from a different cloth. Most of us are not like that, but we could become pro at something else. And my point in saying this is that we have to start catering and letting our young brothers know, hey, you could be an engineer, you could be a scientist, you could be a farmer. Farmers are doing well when it comes to finances. You could be a sanitation worker, just be the best sanitation worker. You could be a lawyer. You could be a Dr. Huxtable. You could be a Family Matters guy. What's the guy from Family Matters, the dad? Winslow, Eddie Winslow.
Carl Winslow.
There it is. But we don't have those kind of shows no more. All of our shows are a little bit different now. We're trying to bring it back a little bit. But saying that, how do I and what have we done to help minimize, or how do we address first and foremost, before we minimize, we have to address the problem. And so the problem has been, and I'm talking in-house here, it's been us. We have to claim our kingdoms back. We have to make sure we put our crowns back on our heads as kings and let our sons know, okay, if it doesn't work out with me and your mom, I'm still your dad. I'm still your father. I'm going to always be in your life. But nah, man, she won't let me see my son. That's a lie. No, you go see your son, and that's a different relationship between you and her. We have to, compartmentalize that. And so we have to show our young kings, princes, how to do that. So, but again, that's what we do. That's what I've done on the radio. That's what I've done in my classroom, is to let them know, hey, We can do this the godly way, or we could do this the street way, or we could do this any other way. But let's do it the godly way. And the godly way says to be present. Again, the reason why I'm talking about LeBron James is because it has nothing to do with basketball. LeBron James has one wife. He's been present to his children the whole time. He ain't got no drama with a bunch of women out in the streets. He ain't smoking dope and getting arrested. He's been that cool dude making $1 billion. He's been that role model that I didn't see growing up in the 80s, that I didn't see growing up in the 90s from an athlete's perspective. Now we have a guy, and that's why they can't stand LeBron James, because he's got one woman, one wife. Okay, he ain't got no drama out there in the streets. He's not getting arrested. He ain't smoking dope. He's got schools opened up. He's giving money back to the community. He ain't perfect. None of us are. But at the same time, this is why they can't stand him. Okay, he's being treated the same.
By Megyn Kelly. And remember that statement by Megyn Kelly?
Yes.
Saying that LeBron should shut up and dribble. Remember that?
Right. I remember that loud and clear.
Right. And that's one thing I do want to take the opportunity here is to say that we don't cover entertainment. We don't cover sports. But, it's something that we've done to try to reach young people. All right. And through, bringing on someone that's an entertainer or bringing on someone that's an athlete, it's an exception for us.
Yes.
Okay. And another thing I do want to talk about, and what you just said is a segue into this. The mainstream media is a culprit in a lot of what is portrayed and the media that we see in this country.
Mm-hmm.
And we've been seeing it. I remember when there was only 3 channels, ABC, NBC, and CBS, and we always had 13. I don't look at mainstream news. I don't look at it. Because don't forget, you got a producer, which is 99.9% of the time, is a white person. And he screens everything that goes through. So what they report is heavily screened and censored. All right? And I think a lot of what we're going through now, and I'm not going to, go a long time on this, but I just want to point out to you, is that a lot of what we see now with black on black crime, there's white on white crime also.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, look at the one, the lady that got kidnapped. Hey, come on. Yep. Every racial group has crime.
And that's because of colonization. That's because of how the projects were set up. Wasn't set up by us. Okay, so the people who drew those lines, the redlining, the people who drew those lines of demarcation where we live in these hoods, in these neighborhoods, in these communities, like you said, Mr. Walt, it goes back to that narrative. And I always turn in good stories that are positive about us, but the media never talks about them. They only want to interview Edmond W. Davis when a murder happens. I got tired of that, so I put on the news here. I'm not giving y'all anything to feed off of. Every time y'all want to interview me, you want to call me to the studio to talk about black men being killed by other black men or murder cases. But when I talk about this career fest, I got to call people from Memphis. So again, that's that narrative. They have that narrative, and that's their propaganda. It's a big propaganda machine. You're right. Absolutely.
That's right. That's why we think, a lot of us think the way we think.
Mm-hmm.
Because we grew up on TV. That indoctrination. Which is the best way to, get hearts and minds? They do it on the media. They're looking at it every day for years and years and years.
Exactly. Yes, sir.
All right. Okay. Now I want to talk about, you got a big event coming up, but let me just ask you, give me, when you're doing a client.
Okay. A lot of my speaking opportunities come via referral, and the referral system has worked tremendously for me over the years, and I've got some mentors in place that I learned, from them. And I too have mentees that I pass down that information to as well about the referral system. But they'll talk to my assistant, and to make sure they're a good fit, I'm asking the topics that they want me to talk about. Again, it has to be something that's pro-generated from something that's positive and something that I think is worth my time. I said, all money being made ain't good money, but I do this to provide for my family. However, I want to see to it that it's something where people can benefit from. I want my messages, Mr. Walt, to be not transactional, but transformational. It has to be something about how can I be not just a credit to my community, but also the bigger picture is God pleased with what I'm saying to people, and how can I relate that to them, and how can this be a benefit to somebody in the long run? So I look for those opportunities, and sometimes I have to, put my own filter on myself sometimes and figure out, okay, what is my motive here? Okay, outside of yes, I do want to be compensated for the skill set that I do have. However, um, I'm not about to water down or downplay, or everybody's not your tribe. I tell people that, if they can't afford me, they're probably not my tribe. So let me go ahead. They're just not my tribe. I would love respect you, but you're not my tribe. Now, if you want to pay a rapper, $40,000 to come in for 45 minutes, and you ain't gonna never see him again. Versus me, I'm gonna leave some content here. I'm gonna make myself available to your students. I'm gonna be a phone call or two away. I'm gonna always reinvest back in human capital from that capacity. But you don't want to invest in me. Okay, you're not my tribe. And so that's something that we kind of have conversations about, whether it's me or dealing with a client or an agency or organization or a school or an institution, or even a college or a museum. It depends. And so that's something that I definitely hold in high regard, knowing what I value, knowing what I bring to the table, and again, remaining humble and being humble about it as well, because I know I rather go low than for God to take me low. I'd rather sit down for him than him to sit me down. So I have to always remember who's in control. It's not me, it's my Lord, my Savior. So I'm like, okay, what's this for? What's it going towards? And what's the message here? And is this going to be a benefit to the kingdom of Christ? How is this going to help out what I'm trying to do and what I stand for? And so, I always kind of think of those things. And of course, having an awesome wife as a filter. And, she tells me transparency is key. And so we do those types of things. We have those sometimes uncomfortable conversations about, me saying or doing some things. And, hey, what was your plan? What was your goal in that? So, and that's even with this career fest, because truth be told, it was my wife who came to me and brought this to my attention, Mr. Walsh. She said, when I was director of career services, she said, you should have a career fest, a job fair, not career fest, a job fair, traditional, basic job fair for only HBCU students. I scratched my head and said, that sounds great. I think I like that. You know what I'm going to do? Since you prepared this meal, I'm going to put some gravy on it. We're going to make it a HBCU Black Wall Street Career Fest. How about that? And so, and it's been growing ever since. And we decided to reach out to other African American business owners who can afford to hire a college graduate. Because most of us in this country, only about 4% can actually have employees. The other 96% of our black businesses, they work for themselves, or they don't have employees to that extent. And so we were trying to seek avenues and seek patterns and seek paths to bring in people who can actually hire college graduates or can position them to be interns, can have them as assistants, can have them as volunteers in some way capacity to help build their resume. That's what we've been all about. And again, we don't say no to our Caucasian family. We don't say no to our Latino folks. If they want to come and be a part of this experience, they can come too. It's all inclusive. Okay. I don't think there's a section in heaven where it's just all black people, or a section of, of anywhere. Well, we know here on earth it is, but I'm talking about in heaven. The goal is to duplicate that up there. And I want to include people who want to better themselves and help themselves. If that's a Caucasian or European American brother and sister, y'all want to, come through and learn something, come on through. Okay. So that's where that came from for the National HBCU Black Wall Street Career Fest. It was first the Arkansas HBCU Black Wall Street Career Fest.
Okay. All right. Now, the one that's coming up this year at HBCU Black Wall Street Career Fest.
Yes, sir.
That you have one coming up this year.
Yes.
All right. Now, I will be attaching, I'll put a link to, did you do the flyer yet and all that kind of stuff for this
Say
year?
it one more time.
The flyer.
Oh, yes. Yes, we have the flyer. It's in circulation now. I can get one to you. I thought I sent one, but if I didn't, I can send that here.
I may have it. I may.
Okay.
But send it to me, standalone. And I literally, I went onto your site and I saw, a lot of good stuff up there. I mean, what's your website again?
Yes, it's called, it's www.edmondwdavis.com, and that's all one word, all lowercase. www.edmondw Davis, Davis, all lowercase, all one word, edmondwdavis.com. And the website for the Career Fest is www.hbcubws.org. I have a few more minutes. Yes, sir.
So we will be continuing with Professor Davis in our next episode. So stay tuned, and hopefully we can get that out to you. But I do want to say thank you to Mr. Davis, or Professor Davis, for coming out to the Walt Weekly.
Yes. Well, thank you, Mr. Walt. I really appreciate this. I'm honored that you selected me to be on this podcast. And to your family, thank you for positioning you to have this opportunity. But I'm so grateful. And I just want everyone to know that this is awesome. And I'm going to continue to support this podcast and share it about in my social circles. And, definitely for us to be able to empower people with what we know. And again, I always was told by one of my mentors, people don't remember you from what you do. They remember you from how you make them feel. And so, hopefully this message that we said, we have a part 2, that was not just commendable and fact check proof. And we're able to, just kind of help empower people. And that's what we want to do. We want to be a blessing to help empower people, to inform people. And I believe that's what the Walt Weekly Podcast is all about.
All right. With that said, y'all guys have a nice day. Thank you for joining. And again, Professor Davis, thank you, sir.